You probably think you're in control of your life. You wake up when you want. You say what you think. You make your own choices. At least that's the story you tell yourself. But look closer. Notice how quickly your energy collapses when someone disrespects you. How one message can hijack your mood. How silence from the wrong person makes you anxious. How a screen tells you what to feel before you've even thought. That isn't coincidence. That's conditioning. Control doesn't arrive loudly. It slips in quietly, through habits you never question, through reactions you've repeated so many times they feel like personality, through emotions you mistake for authenticity. You think freedom means no one is physically stopping you, but real control doesn't need force. It only needs access. Access to your attention, access to your emotions, access to your need to be liked, understood, included, approved. And the moment those things can be touched, you can be moved. You are not free. And the reason isn't the government, your parents, your boss, or the system. The reason is simpler and more humiliating. You are being controlled every single day, and the most dangerous part is that you think you are free. You are not. Think about how often your mood is controlled by messages, by disrespect, by social media, by the fear of missing out, by the fear of being alone, and then ask yourself who is really in charge of your life. Pause here. Look at your life closely. The job you hate but keep showing up to. The disrespect you tolerate because you don't want conflict. The ideas you never execute because discomfort scares you more than regret. That is not freedom. That is remote control. Every time you react emotionally, you place your power in another person's hands. Every time you explain yourself, you lower your position. That is not weakness by accident. That is control by design. The system does not need chains to control you. It only needs you emotional, reactive, distracted, and desperate to be liked. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before modern systems existed. He knew men are not ruled by force, but by predictable behavior. If someone can predict your reactions, they can control your outcomes. If they can trigger your emotions, they can steer your actions. The easiest man to control is the one who cannot endure discomfort. Think about it. Marcus Aurelius warned that a man becomes a slave the moment he allows external things to disturb his mind. Most men today wake up already defeated, not by enemies, but by alarms they hate, jobs they resent, habits they refuse to break, and distractions designed to keep them weak. You scroll to escape pressure. You avoid pain to protect your feelings. You delay action to stay comfortable. And then you wonder why life feels small. This video is not here to inspire you. It is here to expose the system you are participating in without realizing it. Because if you are easily offended, easily distracted, easily pleased, and easily exhausted, then you are easily controlled. If your mood can be controlled, you can be controlled. If your emotions lead your actions, you can be controlled. If your attention can be stolen, you can be controlled. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will learn exactly how men become impossible to control, how they train their minds, how they move without reacting, how they become unreadable, unshakable, and dangerous without ever raising their voice. Because once you understand control, you stop reacting, you stop explaining, you stop chasing, and once you see it, you will never live the same way again. The first thing you must understand is this. Control does not begin when someone tells you what to do. It begins the moment you react without choosing. Most men believe they are free because no one gives them direct orders. But look closer at how you live. If someone's opinion can ruin your mood for hours, you are not independent. If boredom sends you scrolling, you are not choosing, you are obeying. That is the first brutal truth. Control works best when you think you're acting freely. The system does not need to trap you. It only needs to condition you. Condition you to seek comfort. Condition you to avoid pressure. Condition you to react instead of decide. Once those patterns are installed, you become manageable. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before algorithms and screens existed. He knew that the easiest man to dominate is not the weak one, but the predictable one. The man who always reacts the same way. The man whose buttons are exposed. Ask yourself something uncomfortable. How easy is it to ruin your focus? Someone questions you, and you panic to clarify. Someone doubts you, and you scramble to prove. Someone challenges you, and you feel compelled to respond. That means your mind is not yours. It is an open door. Marcus Aurelius warned that the soul becomes enslaved the moment it hands control of its peace to another person. And yet most people live like emotional hostages, negotiating their mood with strangers, bosses, partners, and timelines. Here is a hard scenario most men avoid facing. If I can predict your reactions, I can control your outcomes. If I know what triggers your anger, I can provoke mistakes. If I know what you crave, I can dangle it. If I know what you fear, I can freeze you. That is why the first layer of becoming impossible to control is not aggression. It is unreadability. Look at the man who wants to start a business but keeps delaying. Not because he lacks ability, but because uncertainty makes him uncomfortable. So he waits. He plans. He tells himself soon. Comfort controls him. Look at the man who wants respect but cannot hold his tongue. Every insult needs a response. Every disagreement needs justification. Every misunderstanding needs explanation. Emotion controls him. Look at the man who wants freedom but cannot sit alone without stimulation. He needs noise. He needs scrolling. He needs distraction. Attention controls him. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. But most men live as if outside events own them completely. The man who cannot sit in silence will always chase noise. And here is the brutal truth. If discomfort makes you panic, someone else will always decide your direction. Pause here. Think about the last time you wanted to quit something important. The gym, the business idea, the discipline you promised yourself. Was it because it was impossible, or because it was uncomfortable longer than you expected? Most men don't fail because they are incapable. They fail because discomfort exposes who is really in control. Pause again. Ask yourself honestly. What emotion controls you the fastest? Fear, anger, approval. Because whichever one it is, that is where your chains are. And we're not stopping here. Because the next thing you're about to understand is the real source of control. And it's not fear, not authority, not systems. It's something far closer. Something you use every day without noticing. Most men feel the cage before they can name it. They sense frustration. They sense stagnation. They sense a quiet anger they can't explain. But instead of confronting the cause, they anesthetize it. They drown it in entertainment. They numb it with distraction. They smooth it over with motivation clips and temporary confidence. That is not healing. That is sedation. And sedation is one of the most effective tools of control ever created. The system does not fear angry men. It fears focused men. So it keeps you tired. It keeps you stimulated. It keeps you busy reacting to noise, while your real life stays unchanged. You wake up with plans, but you scroll first. You feel the urge to build, but you delay until tomorrow. You know what must be done, but you wait until conditions feel right. That waiting is not patience. It is avoidance disguised as logic. Most men don't stay controlled because they are weak. They stay controlled because they are trained. Trained to believe pain is a signal to stop. Trained to believe discomfort means danger. That belief alone is enough to keep you average for life. Look at how people structure their days. They wake up already exhausted by thoughts they haven't acted on. They delay the work they know they must do. They postpone the risk they know would change everything. Not because they can't do it, but because it would hurt. The business idea stays in their head because rejection would sting. The job stays because uncertainty feels unbearable. The discipline never forms because effort feels like punishment. Pain is no longer physical. Pain is psychological, and modern systems exploit this perfectly. They flood you with convenience, so effort feels extreme. They normalize distraction, so focus feels painful. They glamorize ease, so discipline feels unnecessary. And then they convince you this is freedom. Machiavelli would call this the most effective form of control. Not force, not violence, but comfort disguised as kindness. Because a man who avoids discomfort will obey without resistance. He will remain silent when he should act, not because he agrees, but because confrontation feels heavier than regret. This is where men betray themselves. They delay action until motivation arrives. They wait for confidence before moving. They wait to feel ready. But readiness is a myth invented by fear. Marcus Aurelius warned that if you wait for perfect conditions, you will do nothing worth remembering. And yet most men live exactly that way, standing still, rehearsing courage, instead of practicing it. Here is a scenario that cuts deep. You know exactly what your next move should be. You know the habit you must build. You know the conversation you must have. You know the risk that would separate your future from your past. And yet you delay, not because you don't want it, but because the discomfort feels unbearable right now. That is control. Seneca stated that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But imagination controls behavior far more effectively than real danger ever could. The fear of pain becomes worse than pain itself. So you negotiate with yourself. You lower your standards. And slowly, without noticing, you build a life you secretly resent. Here is the truth no one says directly. If pain dictates your decisions, someone else dictates your destiny. Because anyone who can make you uncomfortable can move you. Anyone who can threaten your comfort can steer you. That includes bosses. That includes partners. That includes public opinion. That includes systems designed to keep you consuming instead of creating. And this is why becoming impossible to control requires a brutal shift. You must stop treating discomfort as an enemy and start treating it as proof. Proof you are moving beyond conditioning. Proof you are stepping outside predictable behavior. But we're not done yet, because the deepest form of control is not fear of pain. It is the need to be liked while avoiding it. And that's where most men collapse completely. You were taught that expressing everything makes you authentic, that sharing your struggles makes you strong, that being emotionally open earns trust. That lesson did not free you. It made you predictable. Every emotion you leak becomes information. Every insecurity you confess becomes leverage. Every explanation you give hands someone the blueprint of your inner world. And people do not need to hate you to use it. They only need opportunity. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago when he wrote that men judge more by appearances than by reality, and few bother to see beyond what is shown. He wasn't warning you about enemies, he was warning you about visibility. The more visible your inner state becomes, the easier you are to manage. Think about it carefully. When people know what excites you, they know how to distract you. When they know what hurts you, they know where to press. That is not connection. That is exposure. And here is the brutal truth most men never accept. You are not punished for being evil. You are punished for being unguarded. Look at how quickly people adjust their behavior once they sense weakness. They interrupt more, they respect less. They push boundaries casually, not because they are cruel, but because human nature tests what it can move. The moment you feel the urge to clarify yourself, ask why. Is it truth, or is it the fear of being misunderstood? Because the need to be understood is one of the strongest chains you can wear. The man who needs approval must negotiate his actions. The man who stands firm needs no defense. Seneca warned that no man is free who is not master of himself. And mastery does not come from emotional release. It comes from emotional discipline. This does not mean suppression. It means control. You feel anger, but you do not broadcast it. You feel doubt, but you do not leak it. You feel ambition, but you do not announce it. You process internally. You decide deliberately. You act when the time is right. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first, because silence removes validation. And without validation, only truth remains. Most men would rather feel heard than be effective. They choose relief over results. But relief fades. Results compound. And once you stop feeding people your inner state, something strange happens. They begin to watch you more closely. They begin to hesitate. They begin to feel uncertain around you. Not because you threatened them, but because they cannot read you. Unreadable men are difficult to manipulate. Difficult men are rarely controlled. Now the final illusion must be broken, because even disciplined men lose power if they do not understand why comfort is the most sophisticated leash ever invented. Gap. Most people think they are being controlled by governments, bosses, partners, or systems. That is a comforting lie. The real control happens before any authority touches you. It happens in your habits. You wake up tired, not because you work too hard, but because your life has no resistance in it. You check your phone before you check your purpose. You consume before you create. You react before you decide. That is not laziness. That is conditioning. You are being moved without noticing, because the system never pushes you directly. It pulls you gently, through comfort. Look at how control actually works in real life. A man hates his job but stays because the discomfort of leaving feels worse than the pain of staying. A man knows his relationship is draining him, but tolerates it because confrontation feels dangerous. A man wants to build something meaningful, but delays because short-term pleasure feels safer than long-term uncertainty. None of these men are weak. They are managed. They are guided by avoidance, and avoidance is the most reliable form of control ever invented. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before algorithms existed. He warned that men are quicker to forget the death of a father than the loss of their inheritance, meaning people will tolerate deep loss as long as their comfort remains untouched. That is why modern control never looks violent. It looks convenient. You are not forced to stay average. You are rewarded for it. Cheap dopamine replaces discipline. Distraction replaces direction. Entertainment replaces ambition. And when pain finally appears, when reality demands growth, most men retreat, not because they cannot endure pain, but because they have trained themselves to escape it. Here is a scenario you will recognize. You sit down to work on the thing that could change your life. Your mind becomes restless within minutes. You feel resistance. Your body wants relief. So you check messages. You open another tab. You tell yourself you will start after this. That is not procrastination. That is obedience. You have been trained to abandon discomfort the moment it appears, and anyone who can make you abandon discomfort can make you abandon your goals. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the impediment to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. But most men never discover this because they turn away the moment the path becomes difficult. So control remains invisible. Your opinions are shaped by repetition. Your desires are shaped by exposure. Your fears are shaped by narratives you never questioned. You think you chose your beliefs. In reality, most were installed. The most dangerous form of control is when you believe you are free, when you feel autonomous while being predictable. Predictable men are easy to manage. They react the same way every time. They choose comfort every time. They avoid pain every time. And systems love predictable men, because predictable men never rebel. They complain. They trade potential for peace. But there is a point where this breaks. There is a moment where you realize that the cost of avoidance has exceeded the cost of pain. That staying has become more painful than leaving. That silence has become more painful than confrontation. That distraction has become more painful than discipline. That moment is where control begins to fail. Because once you willingly step into discomfort, you remove the primary lever used against you. And when discomfort no longer scares you, manipulation loses its grip. The next layer is the most uncomfortable of all, because it requires letting go of something men cling to desperately. Approval. Control does not begin with force. It begins with permission. And most men give that permission away daily without realizing it. You are not forced, you are guided. Every time you ask for reassurance before acting, you hand control outward. Every time you explain yourself to people who are not invested in your future, you surrender leverage. You were taught this was politeness. It is not. It is compliance disguised as maturity. The most dangerous form of control is not domination. It is normalization. Look at how quickly people grow uncomfortable when you do nothing. When you do not respond, when you do not react, when you do not justify. Their discomfort reveals the truth. They were benefiting from access to you. Seneca warned that no man is free who is not master of himself. He was not speaking about discipline alone. He was speaking about availability. If others can summon your attention at will, they govern your inner state. If they can disrupt your focus, they dictate your priorities. If they can provoke emotion on demand, they steer your behavior. That is control. And the modern world is engineered to maximize it. Notifications are not tools. They are interruptions weaponized for compliance. Outrage cycles are not information. They are emotional hijacks, designed to keep you reactive. Social validation is not connection. It is leverage traded for obedience. The more emotionally available you are to noise, the easier you are to steer. This is why powerful individuals reduce exposure, not because they are antisocial, but because they understand economics of attention. Attention is currency. Whoever spends yours controls you. And here is the uncomfortable truth most men refuse to face. You are not controlled because you are weak. You are controlled because you are predictable. You respond when expected. You react how they assume. You fear what they programmed. Predictability is a liability. Machiavelli understood that unpredictability creates hesitation, and hesitation creates advantage. When people do not know how you will respond, they tread carefully. When systems cannot model your behavior, they lose efficiency. When manipulators cannot anticipate emotion, they lose power. That is why silence is more disruptive than argument. Why patience unsettles more than aggression. Why refusal without explanation terrifies more than refusal with reasons. Control breaks when you stop feeding it data. No reaction. No emotional transparency. No predictable rhythm. You do not announce moves. You execute them. You do not seek permission. You assume responsibility. You do not negotiate boundaries. You enforce them through action. And slowly, something shifts. People stop testing you. Systems stop pressuring you. Noise loses relevance. Not because you fought back, but because you became unmanageable. This is not cruelty. It is sovereignty. You are not controlled the way you think you are. No one is holding a gun to your head. No one is openly commanding you. That is why it works. You are controlled through defaults, through habits you never questioned, through reactions you never trained, through values you inherited without inspection. Most people believe control looks like force. It doesn't. Force creates resistance. Control creates compliance that feels voluntary. Look at how control actually works today. You are not told what to do. You are flooded with alternatives until you do nothing meaningful. Endless content, endless opinions, endless paths. You consume, you compare, you hesitate. And while you hesitate, time passes. That is control. Because power is not about forcing action. It is about delaying it. Most people are not controlled by chains. They are controlled by indecision. They wait for clarity before acting. They wait for confidence before committing. They wait for permission disguised as certainty. And while they wait, others move. Machiavelli understood this pattern centuries ago. He warned that opportunity is fleeting and punishes hesitation more brutally than mistakes. Those who act imperfectly still advance. Those who wait perfectly stay where they are. Control systems thrive by keeping you in a permanent state of preparation, always learning, always planning, never executing. Because execution creates independence. A man who acts becomes unpredictable. A man who delays becomes manageable. Notice how often you are encouraged to wait and see. Wait for the right time. Wait for more information. Wait until you're ready. That language sounds reasonable. It is poison. Readiness is a myth used to delay action. The moment you wait for certainty, you surrender initiative, and initiative is power. This is why people who control narratives don't argue with you. They overwhelm you. They keep you consuming instead of deciding, watching instead of building, reacting instead of choosing. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't choose a direction deliberately, one will be chosen for you. If you don't decide what matters, distractions will decide for you. If you don't set priorities, urgency will be imposed on you. Control does not announce itself. It replaces your agency quietly. The man who is impossible to control does one thing differently. He limits his inputs, he reduces options, he commits early and adjusts later. He does not wait to feel certain. He moves, then learns. That makes him dangerous, because once someone commits to action, persuasion loses power, noise loses influence, opinions lose weight, and systems lose leverage. Marcus Aurelius wrote that you have power over your mind, not outside events. And the moment you realize this, strength follows. But that strength only appears when you act, not when you think, not when you plan, not when you consume. Action is the exit, and that's why most people avoid it. At this point, you should see it clearly. Control does not collapse when you fight it. It collapses when you stop participating. Most people try to escape control by becoming louder, more reactive. That only tightens the chains, because the system does not fear resistance. It anticipates it. What it cannot manage is detachment. The man who becomes impossible to control is not aggressive. He is not rebellious. He is not emotional. He is selective. He chooses when to speak. He chooses what to reveal. He chooses which battles deserve energy. And most importantly, he chooses when to do nothing. This is where power actually lives. Seneca warned that the greatest slave is the one who believes he is free while obeying impulses he never questioned. Think about that. Every urge to explain yourself, every impulse to defend your image, every need to be understood, every reaction to disrespect. Those are not expressions of freedom. They are pressure points. When you remove those pressure points, manipulation fails. People can no longer rush you. They can no longer provoke you. They can no longer steer you emotionally. You stop being usable. And here is the truth. Most people never hear. Once you become hard to control, many people will pull away. Some will feel uneasy. Others will label you cold, distant, arrogant, or changed. That is not a loss. That is confirmation. Because control always disguises itself as concern. And manipulation often wears the face of familiarity. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that those who wish to remain free must accept being disliked by those who benefit from their obedience. You do not become untouchable by pleasing everyone. You become untouchable by no longer needing approval to move. This is the shift. You stop reacting and you start choosing. You stop broadcasting and you start observing. You stop being emotionally available to everything and you become strategically unavailable. From that moment on, people stop moving you and begin adjusting to you. That is what it means to be impossible to control. Drop this in the comments if it resonated. I choose my responses. If this video sharpened your awareness, if it gave language to something you felt but couldn't articulate, then reinforce it. Like this video. Not for me, but to anchor the mindset you're building. Subscribe to this channel, because what we do here is not motivation, it's conditioning. And share this with someone who keeps asking why they feel stuck, manipulated or drained, but isn't ready to hear it from life yet. Power doesn't come from knowing this once, it comes from living it consistently. The man who masters himself does not need to control others. The world adjusts to him automatically. We move forward from here. Thanks for watching.